Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where we have just finished playing Wingspan. Chris won by a solid margin, and Michael and I are just terrible at birds. I'm even worse at birds than you are. I forgot to feed my willet, and that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
But you were 3 points behind him, and at least 3 times you rolled one die. You should have rolled like 3 or 4.
Yeah, at least 3 times.
So we'll get. I think we'll say you drew with Michael.
Well, you heard it here for him.
Or you were just,
he's the root.
Or do you just maybe just lose because you're stupid? So you deserve to lose.
Damn it, you're right. I did lose because I'm stupid. So. Meanwhile, back to Wingspan. We've just finished playing.
I love it.
Would you like to start?
Can't skip to the end.
No, sorry. I'm not going to poker face at all.
Well, it has been the top of the hotness list. It's basically sold out of everywhere that's selling board games for less than retail price. But the first printing is... I think you can probably still find it at your brick-and-mortar local game store, but you won't be able to find it in any online stores at all at the moment.
Yeah, but it's on. You can pre-order from a few at the moment.
Yeah, there's a second printing coming in April. There's a few typos in the first printing, which they will have updated in the second printing, so that's good.
I think they've started the third print already.
Quite possibly.
I think I saw an update from Stonemaier Games that said that.
It is very popular. And what do you think, Chris?
I thought we were going to start with Michael.
No, Michael's done.
I'm spent.
So it's really
my bird's got the better of me.
As you said, it's really hot at the moment. As you said, there's a lot of hype of it, and the contrary asshole in me really wants to hate it. No, I'm joking. It's really good. It's really good. It's actually, I think, even better than I expected, despite the hype and the promise I was made.
Actually true. I completely agree with you. The thing is, I had reasonably high, not high expectations. I think I'd sort of been trying to manage my expectations, because there's often stuff like that gets up the hype ladder where I am not, where I'm not like, I'm like, this is not all that, you know. But
yeah.
This has...
And there's been stuff that's been hyped up which I've been crushingly disappointed in.
But this definitely not only met my expectations, but extremely exceeded it.
Absolutely.
I agree.
It's just crunchy enough. Yeah. It's very satisfying. It feels like it presents you with lots of options.
Yes.
It's like every time I play it, I want to go back and solve the puzzle I was solving better, but then I can't solve that puzzle anymore because now it's different. But the new puzzle is so engaging. I'm still so engaged. I'm not at all frustrated about it.
Yeah, yeah. The cross wires of the different resources, different things interacting, the habitats interacting with each other in different ways, I remember halfway through the game, earlier on, I was getting myself humorously flustered. Like I wasn't finding it frustrating at all. It was like you said, crunchy. It was making my brain work that a little bit, which was really, really pleasing, and therefore, as you said, satisfying. It's so good.
It is so good.
I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but I can't.
Well, I think
I can't explain the X factor. I could say, oh, it's good because of this and this and this, and I could say that about a bunch of games. But I can't really put my finger on why it's so pleasing. Where
I think it really hits the nail on the head for me, because I'm not very good at engine builders, as I may have just demonstrated, but I still really, I find I can be very hot and cold with engine builders. Actually, like they have to be really good for me to really get engaged. I mean, you know, they must work harder than maybe other types of genres for me. But with this one, what I really, really liked about it is that it's very, very simple to trigger off the engine. And making the choice, you're really just deciding sort of between these 3 things or improving the engine.
Yeah, you can't trigger the engine by improving it, which you can in most engine builders.
Which I think is a very small but very nuanced and important element.
And it's not even necessarily better or worse in general, because a few times when I was playing New Birds, I was like, oh damn it, that means I don't get to use the birds.
Thing. Yeah.
It's not necessarily better or worse in general for engine builders to do going forward, but I think in this it works very well.
Yeah, and I actually think one of the things I do like about the way that works is what I really like, for example, is the way there's a bunch of the birds when I played out a bunch of birds in one turn, and that immediately improved my engine, but with birds that didn't add anything to it, right? So I'm like, 'cause I love the way
improve the action. You improve the action.
I really like the way, exactly. You've got to choose sort of between like. I like the way that the engine improves in two ways.
Yeah.
You can improve it with the bird's brown card abilities, and you can improve it by advancing along the track. Yeah. But what I like is ultimately executing the board is extremely simple.
Yeah.
And yet
so much to think about.
It feels like there's a lot of depth. You know, I'm really engaged. There's a lot to think about, but I'm not ever getting a headache from the complexity.
Correct.
You know, I always feel like I'm puzzle solving in a good way.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very simplistic puzzle solving is what I was going to say. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to do a Mensa test with it.
But there's enough there that you.
But there's enough there to make it meet it. Exactly. It doesn't feel like it's like everything needs to be thought out still.
Mm-hmm. And I never felt like I was looking for sort of like the one optimal move. I always felt like there was a couple of really good choices and I had to try and pick which one I wanted.
Yeah.
Which is really satisfying because when you're searching, when you feel like moves are suboptimal, that can be really frustrating, but I didn't get that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Something about the engine building I find slightly interesting is that you mentioned how you improving the efficiency of the action versus the abilities, the chain of abilities.
The bird abilities.
So I did something similar as far as I played 2 cards that let me play another one immediately. And I also, but then didn't have a special action. I also played a free guy who didn't have a special action, and I played quite a lot of cheap guys, 1 or 2, 1, nothing, 2, 2, right?
Yeah.
2, 2, and 1 again. And as some of them therefore had no points or very few points. And I had basically, these guys came in second last in round 3, and he came in round 4. Mm-hmm. For the first 2.5 rounds, so over half the game, I had no engine, pretty much, apart from occasionally getting something from your turns. So it's kind of interesting. I almost didn't do engine building in an engine building game, and I can remember I only activated this chain twice when I had him, and this once. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 activations off of abilities, which so I basically didn't really engine build, but I hope that's not. I don't think it would be. Gobsmacked to it is. I hope that's not like it doesn't turn out that the best way to win is always just fill up the board with cheap stuff.
No, because I didn't. The time I nearly won.
But did someone else do that? Did someone else fill up their board with cheap stuff?
No, it's like I was storming ahead by not doing what you did.
Yeah, but if no one else in that game did this...
I think Ollie might have been, actually. I can't remember Ollie having much actions when he did his cards. Good,
because I really like the fact that you can kind of subvert the genre, so to speak, and still do well. But obviously it'd be stupid if that was the best strategy.
Because there is this bare bones engine on the board, every time you play a card, regardless of what it does to the engine, does in some small way improve it, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But so what that gives you is this really interesting choice between improving the engine with the brown ability birds or choosing to play the other birds. And what I like about the other birds is that, even if they've got no ability at all, they still give you points and they still give you a nest and eggs, which is really interesting.
Well, I had 2 that gave me no ability, but I got new objective cards.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is oftentimes when you're choosing not to enhance your engine with a really cool brown ability, you're actually giving yourself the opportunity to score more points by gaining access to nests, access to places to put eggs, and access to more bonus cards, which is really, really cool.
Or even just these guys who let you play another one quickly. First of all, that's a whole extra action. That's huge.
Yeah.
And second of all, when you did
because it enabled you to get so much more food.
We both did a 1-2 combo. It took us from getting 1 food to getting 2 food. That's enormous. It doubled the efficiency of this action in one go.
I got my combo off too late though, Chris. If I'd just done it like a round earlier, it would have been so good.
Then you might have lost by only 10 points instead of 14 or 17.
I'm certain I would have won.
But yeah, it's really awesome. Apart from the lack of European birds.
This is just a game that came straight to retail.
Yeah.
The production is great.
Superb.
It's really, really good. I only have one complaint. Do you know what it is?
Give me a second. I can think of one I can think of 2 which are really picky.
Okay,
as in unbelievably picky. So, did you want like a bird marker instead of a flat piece for first player marker?
No, that's not.
Did you want bird-shaped pieces instead of cubes?
No, but you can get them on Etsy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in fact, I've ordered some of them.
Actually, I saw that. I think I saw that on Facebook the other day. I think.
Yeah. No, what was really annoying...
No, I'm going to work this out. Shut up.
I ordered some little bird houses to replace the cubes.
Is it the fact the eggs are not colour coded?
No, I don't mind that.
Do you not like this?
No, I love that.
I mean, it goes to show it's a credit to the game that I can't work out what it is he doesn't like, and all the things I've said I don't care about. I'm just trying to work out what he doesn't like.
Yeah,
go on.
The card stock is really nice. So no, it's the fact that there's 5 resource types and only 4 containers.
What?
And actually,
that's so obvious. I should have spotted that. You signposted that for me. So man.
And when they give you a recommended storage system in the box, they're like, this is how you pack it away to keep it in good condition and neat. And they actually suggest that you put 2 of these filled with all the resources and the other 2 for the eggs. And that's not cool, man. Then I have to sort out all these resources. Why go through all this effort and then not just do that one last step, man?
Well, I suppose the reason you can't really have a go at it is because most games, they actually have given you component trays, and most games don't. And they've given you this really nice... what does this go on? Why is it on top of the thing?
Oh, because this is where you store the cards inside.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, but that's and you can actually use that as well. You can actually, instead of having a deck of cards there...
Yeah, you could actually just have that on the table, and have the cards sat inside.
I think that's how it's meant to be.
I think that's how it's done in the...
Well, yeah, but then this comes over the edge, and then you have to put it in 2 piles.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, anyway, but the fact they've gone to the trouble of having this and this is a really nice bonus.
Yeah, and they do give you lots of baggies in the box, so if you do need to sort out your resource tokens like me, then they've resolved that for you.
I really like the fact that the cards have.
I was really literally just about to say that.
Oh, the art is
I think
so
the art
good.
is superb. The attention to detail is just phenomenal. It's like the art on it is amazing. There's all that information on there.
The amount of information is huge.
The general knowledge even at the bottom. They've gone to so much effort.
They've got a little bit of they got a little factoid. They got the wingspan, which no pun intended. That's an interesting thing. And then that both from a component quality perspective and also from a gameplay perspective, there's so many characteristics, right? You got what they eat, you got where they live, you got how many points they're worth, you got the type of nest they have, you got whether they lay eggs and how many they tend to lay, and you got the wingspan.
Actually,
and those little characteristics all come into it. Be it my guy eating small things, be it the nest types, be it the food they eat for objective cards. There's actually so many different characteristics you can score with.
Mm-hmm. And I actually think that the reason that all the birds have an individual points value is because what they've done is they've given them the nest, the egg limit here, this wingspan, what they eat, where they go, all of that is based on actual scientific fact. Yeah. So they've had to add this one abstract value so they can kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
Right? So if these work out...
It is quite abstract, but it didn't bother me at all during play.
So, but what's interesting is even these eggs, they say in the rule book that although the eggs are not a direct comparison, so for example, this raven here doesn't lay 3 eggs a year, he may lay more than that.
Yeah, but it'll be...
They've
it's a balancing.
They've still worked it out, exactly. So they were saying, for example, the birds with 6 eggs on them, which are quite rare, they actually lay up to 30 eggs a year, those birds.
We mentioned this in gameplay, but for example, for continuing from that point, the bronze cowbird does lay eggs. It's just that he lays them in other birds' nests. Yeah. So thematically, you don't keep eggs on him because he hasn't got and he hasn't.
It's just those nice little nuances that they've really thought about.
It's
I just want to sit and look at the birdies.
I mean, for the most part, I think the more impressive and prestigious the bird, the more points they're worth. I mean, look at the great blue heron's 5. Mm-hmm. The condor's only 1, despite being really big and cool. But he's also he's free to play, and you can play him anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And the tiny bell Zuria's 4,
and then the gigantic Anhinga is.
He's only half the size of the condor, man.
It's true, but he's still very big, right?
Yeah, but look at this guy. He's tiny. He's a roadrunner. He's 7 points.
But he's quite prestigious insofar as, how many people have seen a roadrunner in their life, and everyone knows what a roadrunner is thanks to the cartoon, but most people don't get to see them. Yeah, and they're right, but they're quite unique birds in the fact they're very fast, right? By prestigious, I kind of mean impressive, right? Mm-hmm. An animal doesn't have to be big to be impressive, right? It's like
And the Black Vulture is only worth 2 points because they're not prestigious.
But again, they're free to play because they don't eat.
All the scavengers are free to play.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Which is very cool.
It is so cool. As Michael said, the attention to detail on things like little things like that.
Yeah, it really helps to bring the theme together because it walks a fine line between being and because it's an engine builder, being extremely abstract. You know, there is.
I guess it is. Like, why are you? But
well, it could be, but it manages to really gel the mechanics and the theme well enough that you don't notice it. You don't...
In a way that's almost forced, but forced so elegantly that you don't realise it's forced.
I mean, the fact that you activate birds to get food and then spend food on more birds seems a bit peculiar. But...
if you think of it as... If you think of it as... it kind of actually makes sense, right? Think about it, right? You're spending these birds to get food. Actually, activating some birds to get food, right? And then you also have to spend eggs and food that you previously gathered to make the new bird. That's an egg hatching. And how do birds feed their young?
Blech.
Yeah, exactly, right. It actually makes perfect sense that other
Chris,
birds are getting...
explain this. How do all of the birds sail in on the river?
They build little boats.
Obviously. But yeah, so what I think is that
you can make an excuse for it.
It could have been incredibly abstract, but because they've done a really good job of gelling the theme with the mechanics, you don't really notice how abstract it might have been. Instead, it feels very thematic, and that's really nice. Yeah. You had a point.
I was just going to say, I liked, because it's so well constructed, it doesn't feel like you've been playing it very long either. Yeah. I felt this game...
It was quite quick, wasn't it?
It felt quick. It probably wasn't quick.
We never used this.
No. And I think that's one of its key strengths as well, that it doesn't feel laborious when you're playing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned during gameplay that we all had some turns that were like so quick, and we all had some turns where we stopped and thought for a while, but at no point was I bored waiting for my turn. Even when I decided what I wanted to do and I was no longer doing anything other than waiting, it didn't feel like I was waiting very long at all.
Yeah.
Even with the times where there was a lengthy turn.
And I think as well that it's very accessible. But so crunchy. But exactly, that's why I think it's such a good game, because it's got enough complexity that hobby gamers would really enjoy it, like you two. And yet I could bring this to the table of people that hardly ever play board games and they would really enjoy it.
It feels like sort of a perfect Gateway Plus, you know?
It's definitely like, Gateway Plus. It's nowhere near Gateway, though.
Yeah.
I think it might even be Gateway Plus.
I often underestimate new gamers.
Yeah, that's probably true. Maybe they just wouldn't do particularly well.
Oh, I'm quite a good hobby gamer, and I did awfully. The game does have replayability. Obviously, there's a big stack, 2 decks of cards, but then these are also all random. And what's cool is if you're playing with new people, like, you know, you're introducing them as the Gateway Plus, you can actually flip this over, and then instead of having the most, people score points for what they did. And so it's a lot less confrontational. Yeah. There's no denying other people points, so everyone feels good about what they did. You know, so it sort of acknowledges that you might be playing with people who are new to games and where you want to be a bit less aggressive and allow people to just kind of focus on what they're doing.
This is a game, for example, I would definitely play with my parents, with my family, and they're actually... because I make them play some games, they're definitely advanced enough to play with the advanced side. But I probably would play with this side for them, just because I think my dad, for example, would appreciate not having to worry about competing for those points.
Yeah.
I think it would massively increase his enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So even if someone is capable of playing the advanced side, it's a nice option to have.
Yeah, I really like that they've given you that option. And there's a whole automata as well, which I haven't tried. But actually, you know, I don't often play solo games. I do it very rarely. Often I play the role of several players when I'm learning things for the channel. So
I don't think this is a game I'd play solo.
I don't know if I'd enjoy playing this solo.
I actually think I'm quite intrigued to try it solo.
Fair enough. Let us know how it goes.
I'll let you know if it's enjoyable. Yeah.
I've only ever played a game solo once. I think twice actually. I played Pandemic solo once. And I played some sort of card game once by myself, just because I haven't played board games in ages. I
played Mage Knight solo a few times, and that's
just sitting on my shelf waiting for me to play solo. Unless I can convince Deborah to play with me. I don't think I can. I'll try. I'll tell her it's light.
So I think the one, other than this criticism I made about those, which is not a real criticism.
No, it's not. It's clutching at straws.
Yeah, exactly. But my one other... I mean, I don't know if this is a criticism so much as a sort of a caveat, really, because the recommended retail price for this game is £53, which is quite a lot of money.
Yeah, I was shocked when you told me that.
And I'm not
That's
sure...
a lot more than what I thought it was going to be.
Because it's so overproduced.
It's very overproduced. I say overproduced. I mean, the thing is, like, we know that you can have fun with a game that when it's not overproduced. Terraforming Mars is what, like number 2 on BGG? And that could have used like...
I hate it, though. So.
Well, but that's not the point. The point is it's a very popular game and its production is pretty bad.
It's appalling, yeah.
Yeah. And, Hansa Teutonica, one of our game we played recently that we really liked, is not...
so good.
It's so good. It's not very highly produced either. So the production value is not necessary.
It does help your enjoyment, though. It definitely does.
And I think a lot of what you're paying for in this box is the art on these cards. There's 3 artists credited on the box in addition to the designer, so they obviously all got together.
And it's very consistent. That's interesting.
Well, it's very scientific, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've definitely gone for realism.
Isn't the design a bird... oh my god, we said the word earlier on. An ornithologist?
An ornithologist.
But isn't a bird what? Isn't the designer a game expert?
A bird expert.
Oh my god!
A bird
I
expert.
believe she's a bird expert.
Right.
That would be cool. I have no idea.
Maybe that's her day job. Maybe she's a bird person.
You heard it here first, people.
The bird.
The designer of Wingspan may be a bird person.
Who's the designer?
Elizabeth Hargrave. And she's made an excellent game, and we obviously all really like it. You can probably get it online for less money than the recommended retail. But the thing is, like, I think that having paid, if you've paid £53 for this, I think you'll get your money's worth because it's so playable.
Do you think it would have been cheaper? And I can't believe I'm going to say this. Do you think it would have been cheaper if it had been on Kickstarter? Because they would have been able to, mitigate their risk and know how many they had to print, and all that kind of stuff. They would have, because they underprinted this. That's what
they did.
Right, so they could have benefited more from economy of scales.
Quite possibly, but it might not have been cheaper when it finally wound up at retail. It would have only been cheaper for the Kickstarter.
No, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate against myself and kind of pointing out the benefit of doing a Kickstarter campaign and then a year later doing another Kickstarter campaign. Maybe it would have made this game cheaper.
Well, without going too much into discussion about Kickstarter, I was listening to an interesting podcast with game designers recently, and they were saying actually the biggest benefit of doing a Kickstarter is not the economy of scale or being able to predict production numbers. The actual advantage is that the way Kickstarter is now integrated with social media gives you a massive advertising benefit that you don't have to pay for.
Wow.
They were saying that free advertising is by far and away the most valuable thing with Kickstarter, which is interesting. But this wasn't a Kickstarter.
No.
And so you'll have to buy it from your store. There's, I think it's pretty much sold out everywhere that's not brick and mortar now. So if you're looking for it online, I don't think you'll be able to find it, but don't fret because there's another printing coming in April. There's probably another printing coming very soon after that as well. Obviously, if you're in the States, it might be different. We're here in the UK where it's pretty much all sold out. But it's probably actually going to behoove you to wait for the second print run anyway because they will have fixed a few of the typos in the first print run anyway.
And maybe they'll have a 5th tray.
Maybe they'll give you another plastic tray. Probably not.
I feel like we haven't said a lot about the actual gameplay mechanisms themselves.
I really like the pink abilities. I wish there was more pink abilities.
Yeah, I like them too. I got, let's say 3 or 4 eggs from this, and I think I got food 3 times from this.
Well, and like we mentioned before, it's because they've got this very bare bones engine on the board itself that allows them such flexibility with the cards you're putting down on the board and that's really, really cool. And I'm going to just start looking at birds again.
Even that's really, the fact that the first upgrade is just the same, but the ability to pay for another one, and then you get 2 reels, and then you get again the ability to pay for another one, then 3 fulls. Because I thought this would be really good, but the food and cards are really valuable. Like that hurts. I didn't do it once. Not once did I pay something to get an extra thing because I felt I couldn't. I didn't want to.
And that's why this guy here was so good, because even though he only got me a basic resource, every time I did it, I got a point rather than just ditching a card.
Yeah. You're just trading or just cycling cards, basically.
I was basically doing that, but getting a point for it.
And I wanted him because I had lots of cards in my hand that needed bugs.
That needed bugs.
Yeah.
Michael, I think you'll find it's invertebrates.
Vertebrae. Yeah, then.
I'd play it again.
Yeah.
I'd buy it. I'd play it again.
I'm going to buy it.
I would buy it.
Once you buy it, you'll play it?
No. I don't play games. I just have a big shelf.
There's not many games I would buy. This I would buy.
Really?
Yeah. Because I find it very hard to get games to the table. Because I basically just play with Mike, and he's got them all.
That's what I was thinking. It'd be weird if we both had it, you still get it.
I would still get this.
Wow.
Because it's a game that I would be able to play with anybody. And there isn't many people that I play with that are hobby gamers.
But that's for us on Wingspan.
Wingspan. Spanning those wings.
Glad you're here.
They had so much value.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you all tomorrow for a completely different adventure.
What are we playing tomorrow, Mike?
I don't know.
We'll fly away.
Fly away.